Hey everybody, welcome back to Let's Talk. I am your host John, and today here on the channel we're going to be talking about Altered States and its brand new Criterion 4K Blu-ray that just came out. And this also happens to be a channel director review, so if you are a channel member under the director's tier or higher, each and every single month I will do a review of your choice. It's always pretty cool when it lines up with a physical media release, and this time it did for Altered States, a film that I had never seen before. So before we get into that 4K Blu-ray review, I'm going to give a quick film review like I always do. So if you don't know anything about the film Altered States and you're just here for that 4K Blu-ray review, you guys can skip ahead to that right now. So back on Christmas Day 1980, the world was introduced to Ken Russell's Altered States, which was written by Paddy Chayefsky. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. That's the same guy who wrote the film Network, which is considered one of the greatest screenplays of all time. So a pretty damn good writer, but the film is actually credited to Sidney Aaron, which is his alternate name because he didn't want his name attached to this film. Him and the director Ken Russell had a falling out while they were making this movie, and it's even claimed in the research I was doing this movie that because he died in 1981, he died from a broken heart because of what happened with this movie. This was the movie he had his heart and soul buried into, and he felt like Ken Russell, who wasn't the original director by the way, kind of ruined his movie. So it's pretty crazy. This movie has a lot of issues in the making of it, which is pretty surprising in the sense because the movie is actually pretty damn good. For a movie I had never seen before, I had heard about this movie. I was going to watch it a few years ago after William Hurt, who was the star of this film, actually passed away. William Hurt, one of our great actors, especially in the 1980s, passed away not too long ago, and this was his film debut. And I was like, I never saw Altered States, and it was a sci-fi film, and I'm like, this one might be up my alley, but I had kind of forgotten about it. And then, of course, after Stone Gas Man said, hey, I want this to be your director's review for the month and the new Criterion 4K coming out, I said, all right, no better time than now to check this one out finally. And you know what? I really enjoyed this movie. It's not a perfect film. It's a little bit uneven at points, but the ambition of this film, especially for 1980, has to be commended. I mean, it looks great. It sounds great. It even won the best original score at the Academy Awards that year, so it's a good film when that happens. And of course, as somebody who loves great scores, I can really appreciate this one. I'm also a big sci-fi fan. Sci-fi happens to be my favorite genre of all time because you can make small budget sci-fi films and you can also make big budget sci-fi films. This would be a normal budgeted sci-fi film for the time. William Hurt, who works at, I believe it's Harvard University. No, I'm sorry. He worked for Columbia University in the psychiatric department. He's working on medicine for schizophrenia. He's using these sensory deprivation tanks, these floating tanks to help, find out about schizophrenia. But then he starts to believe in, these altered states, these other states of being, these other states of consciousness. And it really starts to consume the William Hurt character. This really becomes what he wants to focus all of his energy on. And then we jump 10 years later. He's married to a woman who absolutely loves him. And she's played by Blair Brown, the two of them. They have a couple of kids. It's been about 10 years. One of the kids is played by Drew Barrymore, by the way, and also her film debut role. Obviously, she would take off like a rocket ship a couple of years later with E.T., but they love each other. And Blair Brown's character really, truly loves the William Hurt character. But unfortunately, William Hurt, his mind, even after all of these years, is still basically in that sensory deprivation tank. He still believes in these other areas of consciousness that he has a hard time settling down and just living the everyday regular man life. Even his two colleagues from the time who were friends of his, one has really moved on and started a great medical career, and he doesn't want to get bogged down by him. Actually, that Mason character kind of drags the movie down a little bit for me because he's always complaining and being like the negative Nancy, which makes sense because William Hurt, he could possibly destroy his entire life, his entire career. And his friends are trying to get through to him about that, don't you want this regular life? You're about to get divorced. And he's just like, no, this is what I gotta do. This is what my calling is. He's about to go down to Mexico and find this root of a plant, mushrooms or whatever, mix it with his blood, and he enters this incredible altered state where there's fireworks going off in the cave. This is a very visually stimulating movie in the best way possible. Combine that with the score, it's beautiful to look at, it's beautiful to listen to, even if you're not 100% sure of what the fuck is going on. But of course, we understand that he's in a drug state right now, but he believes that he is this new way of living. This is what we are. We could break it down, go back to when mankind was first made. We're going back to the past. We're going back, and this is going to help us. And if we combine this drug from Mexico with those sensory deprivation tanks, I can find the perfect balance. And he's going to take that back home with him. Again, he's starting to just to the outside looking in, he's starting to dive even further and further into madness because he's going to research this. He's going to take some of these drugs himself, and it's starting to really fuck him up. He comes out of the one tank, he can't even speak, but he's aware enough to know, like, I hit something here, and we got to get an x-ray, and the guy's like, yeah, it looks like a gorilla. It's not a human being. That's a, huh? And then, of course, when we later in the movie, he's in there even longer. He comes out of it, and he's basically a caveman, and he can't even like remember certain things that are going on. Again, ruining his marriage and the woman who loves him. That's the stuff that really spoke to me in this movie. Is the love story. Honestly, like I love all the stuff going on with the I love all the stuff going on with the William Hurt character and trying to uncover all of these other altered states. That's what the movie is, right? All these other states of living, all those other states of being. I appreciate all that. I love the visuals of all that, but it's honestly the love story, and I think that's why Ken Russell and the writer didn't really get along too much. Was it seemed like Ken Russell kind of poo-pooed the actual dialogue of the movie, and he even said, like, to the writer, like, he would purposely have them, like, walking and talking and eating food, make it a little bit hard to understand. And when you're watching the movie, the plot might seem a little convoluted, but it really focuses up very well on the actual relationship between man and wife. I guess they would eventually get divorced, but she truly loves this man, and this man unfortunately cares about his work. You know, it's a very simple tale in that aspect. Like, anytime she like confesses her love for him and how he's the only one for her, he kind of like looks past her, doesn't even respond to her. Not until the very end of the movie, he kind of just continues on with his work because that's what's more important to him. And she lays it out for him like, I wish I would have loved somebody else, but I love you. And I think she loves him because he's honest. He's a true person. He's not trying to hide the person he is. It's just the person that he is happens to be obsessed with something like this. And of course, it's eventually gonna drag him down till we get like this great third act that reminded me very much of the movie Shocker, directed by Wes Craven. Very different movies. One is a very serious movie, even if there's some moments you can't really take too seriously, and one is a Wes Craven late 1980s, still I guess in the slasher genre, over the top, silly as hell, but they do share some similarities in the special effects, you know, where characters look like they're in like, you know, they kind of look like they've been sucked out of the TV and the way their body is, you know, very much early 1980s computer effects, camera effects, all of which I absolutely love. I still would take this over any shitty CGI from 2025 every single day of the week because that shit just draws you out of the movie. This, I'm sure people look at it and go, you like this more than 2025 CGI? Absolutely. I love it. A lot of this movie, actually most of this movie, was filmed on location. That's something we never do nowadays. And for a sci-fi movie like this, it really is something that has to be admired. Like, they filmed that, I'm pretty sure, that scene with the fireworks in an actual cave. And it just looked absolutely stunning. It's a mind-bending type of film. It's one that, after only watching once, I don't feel like I have a full 100% grasp on it. Like I said, I really connected to more of the love story than the actual sci-fi story because it becomes a little bit more like convoluted and like stuff like this I've actually looked into myself. But, you know, this one feels a little bit too out there because apparently, you know, it is based on a real novel that is based on the actual studying of these events. So it's something that's not too far out of the, you know, far out in the woods or anything like that. But it does get a little bit too crazy and a little bit too weird, I think, to understand the movie 100% the first time you watch it through. But I truly, really did appreciate it. I was entertained by this movie. It's under 2 hours. Another movie I feel like, you know what, we probably could have extended this out a little bit longer to get a true understanding of everything. But from what I understand, you know, the arguments between the writer and director, it was never going to be like the most legible film, the easiest film to understand, at least on a first time watch through. But I also think that's by intention in a lot of ways. But either way, or I really enjoyed my time with Altered States. This was a great recommendation from Stone Gas Man, and for a first time watch through for me, I can guarantee I'll be watching this one more and more. And thankfully, I have it on physical media because I got the new Criterion 4K Blu-ray that we're going to talk about right now.
Altered States.
And here it is, Altered States from the Criterion Collection on 4K Blu-ray. There is a standard Blu-ray release as well. When you come inside, you're going to see two discs, a 4K Blu-ray and a Blu-ray disc. All of your extras are going to be on that Blu-ray disc. Your audio options are very limited. You'll have either a DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 or a brand new restored DTS HD 2.0, which is pretty cool if you want to check it out that way. The one thing with Criterion, I have to admit, and as time has gone on, their audio is never necessarily the greatest. It's mixed pretty well, it comes in pretty clear, but, you know, for a movie like this with a great bumping score like this and, you know, great dialogue, it would have been cool if they would have, you know, maybe giving us something a little bit better, because that DTS HD Master Audio 5.1, which is using your surround sound, it is good at times, but it is imperfect, and it feels like it could have been mixed a little bit better. Now, I'm not 100% sure, because again, this is the first time I've ever seen the movie, if this is the same exact DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 from the back in the day 2012 Blu-ray. Not 100% sure of that, because the Blu-ray that's packed in here, that 1080p Blu-ray, that is just the brand new scan downgraded to 1080p from 4K Blu-ray. So the 4K Blu-ray compared to the 1080p Blu-ray, it's very similar, except you're getting Dolby Vision and high dynamic range, but the audio tracks are exactly the same. That Blu-ray is also going to feature all of your new featurettes and old featurettes, which if you combine them all, it's about 5 things, including the brand new audio commentary track. You get 1 new interview, 1 new audio track, 1 new audio commentary track, and then a couple of archival interviews. So if you're an extras junkie and you used to rely on the Criterion Collection for the best featurettes out there, they really took the lazy route on Altered States. Now, a lot of that could be because the star of this movie's dead, the director's dead, the writer's dead, so maybe it's not worth it to go back and, do a classic like making up documentary for this, or you can't really get any new interviews with like some of the big players. So that's why we didn't get that many extras on here, but I was still pretty disappointed with that very small list of extras. That was like a Kino Lorber level list of extras, and if you're somebody who's into the featurettes, the extras, the bonus features, you're going to be just as disappointed as I am. Now, some people, they don't give a shit about the bonus features. That's not why they pick up these movies. They really just want to make sure you get a great new visual presentation, a great new audio presentation. Now, they didn't give us that new audio presentation, but the visuals are absolutely stunning. And if you picked up, and I did, and I haven't reviewed it here on the channel, I'm hoping to do it sometime in November, but Brazil on 4K Blu-ray, which came out earlier this year, which already had a Blu-ray release from the Criterion Collection, if you like these visuals, which I have said, just haven't reviewed it yet, are some of the best visuals of 2025, Altered States has a very similar transfer to that. The visuals look very similar. They do have, kind of similar color palettes as well, but the way that they're handling those colors are absolutely stunning. I'm talking 10 out of 10 visual quality here. Looks like you could step into this movie. At one point, I said to my wife, I'm like, doesn't it look like you could just step into 1980? She's like, well, it does look very 1980. I'm like, forget about the hair, the clothes, and all that shit. I'm saying, like, you could actually step into the screen and be on the street with these characters right now. That's how crisp and clear everything came in. I mean, everything. Their skin looks natural. Even going from that 1080p Blu-ray, which is a good Blu-ray, and jumping up to 4K, everything just looks more natural, more realistic. The high dynamic range is doing a fantastic job. That fireworks scene in the cave is stunning, and all the visual stuff in this movie is so stunning now on 4K Blu-ray. Even though I've never seen it before, I don't know what this movie looked like on VHS, DVD, or Blu-ray back in the day, but looking at it in 4K Blu-ray, my god, these are some incredible visuals, and they really didn't skimp out when it comes to the transfers in the visual department. Now, I do feel like Criterion unfortunately did take the lazy route out when it comes to the featurettes, and with the audio department, maybe they don't look at this as a big money maker for them, so they're like, we don't have to go all out, we gotta save money where we can. But if you pick this up on day one with shipping and taxes and everything like that, because it's very hard to walk into a Barnes and Noble and pick this up on day one, this is about $40+ on 4K Blu-ray. And I knock all the other studios when they do things like this and they only give you a very limited bare bones release and just upgrade to the visuals. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to do the same exact thing with the Criterion Collection. Even though they are my favorite boutique label, they've gotten lazy in certain areas, and it was just never like that. If you go back to my reviews for the Criterion Collection in 2022, they've really gotten a lot lazier and lazier when it comes to audio and to the special features, and that was all stuff that helped sell this. Now, given they were never the biggest in the boutique area when it came to the audio, they always kind of felt like they were a little iffy on that. They wanted to really concentrate on the audio being like how it was when it was first released, which makes sense. It lines up with this release as well, which the 2.0, it's probably like how it was when it was released in theaters. But a lot of us have these great sound systems, and when like a brand new, well-mixed audio track to match up with these stunning new visuals. They still concentrate amazingly on the visuals. They don't always hit. Sometimes people don't really vibe too well where they say like it's director approved, and maybe they don't really like the director's vision, or it doesn't look like the movie that you used to remember. But for the most part, they do a great job on the visuals still. This is a great example of a great visual transfer. It's just, you give a standard packaging, which is fine. Criterion standard packaging is more than enough. It feels like, hey, we got this out here, and for over $40, it's just not worth that. This is something you absolutely have to buy in the Barnes & Noble's 50% off sale, around $25. That's the sweet spot for this 4K Blu-ray, because again, the visuals are stunning. If you've never seen the movie, it's actually not a bad blind buy. It was a blind buy for me, and I pretty much really enjoyed it. So it's still a good watch. The audio leaves a lot to be desired, but it's still fine. The extras were my biggest disappointment, but not everyone's going to care about that. So if I was going to give this 4K Blu-ray a score of 1 to 10, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. It just feels like it's a little bit incomplete, but this is not a reflection on the film itself. It's more of a reflection on what Criterion has been doing lately, and it's just a little bit disappointing. It's not a complete failure or anything like that. It's just I see some cracks in the foundation, and I really hope that this is the Criterion Collection we're talking about here. I kind of hold them like, you put them on a little bit of a higher standard. They're not like Kino Lorber. Kino Lorber, I know that they will take the lazy route sometimes, but when it comes to the Criterion Collection, I don't really expect it, even though they've shown me time and time again they can do that. So unfortunately, as much as I love them, got to call them out on some of that bullshit, because these 4K Blu-rays cost a lot of money from everybody, and if we're going to pick and choose, you better stand out in the crowd, and unfortunately, Altered States does not stand out in the crowd. But anyway, that's going to do it for me here on another episode of Let's Talk. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this video if you could. We also have channel memberships, guys, so if you want to become a friend of the channel, a producer for the channel like John Doe Juggalo, Ben Rondo, and Harvey Scott, you could do that, or you could bump it up to the channel directors like Stone Gas Man, Uncle V, Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews, Nicholas Head, and Kevin Kruger, or you could bump it up to the channel bankroll members like Mr. Smelly Potato. But of course, guys, if you have no money to throw my way, I don't mind at all. I just hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.